talk about it, hear other people's like voices,
So
and
the
then
first thing
like
you want
how
to do
they've
is
been
actually make sure
processing
that
it.
you're
I think it's
protecting
very
your
helpful.
head.
Yeah, what are you hoping to gain out of this shared experience? I know that people
There
are going
are
to create
whatever
experiences
you
sort of
need to
open
do to
mic, but there's
stop
also a little
that
bit of a
flow.
self-defense
And you
aspect to
push
things. Is
them
that
away,
something
try
you
to
feel
create as
like
much space
you
as
would
you can.
benefit from?
And you can also use your car as leverage to keep this person away from you. So try and back up into your car, then it might feel a little bit counterintuitive. And you can brace yourself, lean back, and kick like you're trying to kick down a door. So that's called a push kick. So you can try it again. So you're gonna want to wind up and push as hard as you can as if you were trying to break down the door. So as you're kicking that person away, pushing them and trying to create space, make sure that you're making as much noise as possible. If no one can hear that someone is attacking you, it's a lot less likely that someone is going to come to you anymore. But once you've created space and you've gotten that person at a safe distance from you, if you still have your keys, try your best to
I'm
get
excited about self-defense part, and also exciting I was excited about the thing which is relate to me, because like, yeah, my parents are always worried every time I go outside now. Like literally every time they call me, I'm like, what did you do to go outside? Don't take the train, don't take public transit, don't go out when it's dark, just don't go out at all. And like I know as women in general, we're always taught, you know, keys in the hands, like pepper spray, all those things, but like having Asian American women so specifically targeted makes it so much worse. So I feel like having that self-defense will be like really helpful. And then also to echo like the community, I think that would be really nice. I live in a predominant kind of very southern white place, I've never really had that. So I think being able to find a little bit more community that would be really nice.
Have either of you had any experiences of discrimination or feeling unsafe?
Yes. I was at Pop-Up for Women's Dinner last week, and I was just proudly, I went out with my teammates, one of them is East Asian and the other is white, and we were offered seats, by people on the bus, and I was like, that doesn't usually happen to me, and they're like, what do they usually say to you? And I was like, oh, they usually just say something racist, and like, the table was like, why? And people felt like, and yeah, just like the realization, of like, that's normal for
Is public transit a concern? I know even Redlands right here, there have been some attacks in the last year or two, and you mentioned that you take the CTA.
Yeah, my parents actually came to visit me recently, and like we took the train together and stuff, and like I guess I felt okay, but they seemed to be really uncomfortable with it. And like when they like went home and stuff, every time they called me, like we were there, like we didn't like it doesn't feel safe, you know, like don't go out after dark, don't do those things. And like that might be coming from their experience, but like my mom is an Asian American woman, obviously. She once when I was younger, when we were living in an apartment, she like went out to throw the trash and somebody like attacked her with an axe. So that's traumatic. Yeah. So like she definitely has reason to be worried, and I also have reason to be worried. It's a lot to like think about.
Well, and I mean, it's would be the easier to feel like here today, but you know, but the other thing too is the event is tied to breaking silence. So in addition to just the physical aspect of all this, I think a lot of it too is just Asian American women voicing their experience and bringing awareness to it, because unfortunately it's underreported either to authorities but also by the media. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, you're speaking to me, you're obviously comfortable speaking up, but do you wish other women would do the same?
from what I can see from my experiences with racism, mostly due to something a lot of the people are perpetrators who are like black or people of color. So on one hand, like I wish that people would and so she is proud understand that a lot of this is like it's not like there's a narrative and more than there's a systemic racism so yeah, kind of like it.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or comments or things like this? Those are fantastic. Thank you. Obviously a very timely event. But I think it's important to look at like that. You know, I know it's a minor, but it could have happened anywhere.
It's happening.
That's what I meant. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. It will be on tonight. I'm gonna head out of here in like 5 minutes or so I can run back to the Yes, yes. Yeah, I can say, yeah, that'd be great, great, thank you.
Thank you. You did a good job. You did a great job. So articulate. I got really
I just walking there. It's like, no.
I'm also now very
And the number one objection that we usually get with this tip is, what if I'm looking at someone who's thinking I'm gonna do that? But ultimately, if you're looking at someone and they're thinking how to attack you, they probably have an intention at some point. And in that situation, it's better to actually face the situation head on than pretend that it's not happening or not.
Let's not live stream the check-in.
Behind you, it doesn't have to be something super obvious. You don't have to turn around and say, hey, why are you following me? It could be something subtle, something talking to your shoulder to check, or pulling something to the right. That way, you can also use your whole the environment.
I was
You mean like more friendship?
No, I moved to the US.
To do so many people in the group. So like we all added each other. Oh, that's our part. Benefit about all the events that I need someone to
Make sure that your bag, phone, and your keys are separated, so that way if someone's trying to grab your third thing is to make sure that you have your Another scenario. And you're already in discussion.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
The first thing that
But like my school, you can sign up and then tell them you're
no space. And I know this can So try and push their arm, whatever you need to do to stop that.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Break the Silence Justice for Asian Women event. My name is Victoria Ng and I am the Executive Director of Chicago Asian Women Empowerment. We are so grateful and humbled to have all of you here today. There will be more people trickling in because they do get off at 5, so they will be coming a little bit later. But we will be kicking off this session with the open mic dialogue. We have someone who would like to share a story, and we hope that everyone could be respectful and pay attention to her. Miru?
Hi everyone, my name is Miru Yang, and I came to Chicago 1.5 years ago, and I'm the journalist for Baidu in China. So yeah, as a journalist, I saw a lot of things around me because every day I'm doing the broadcasting for breaking news or interview celebrities and some disaster happening in all over the world and especially in Chicago. So I always travel from Chicago to New York to the West Coast to have some emergency breaking news. So I was participate for the 2020 March 20th the Stop Asian Hate protest. That is my first protest in my life because I entered the American America is on March 5th 2020. So it's like after 15 days it happened to me. So it's make me really shocked. I was thinking this is really huge thing in my life. You know, there's no this kind of right in China. Motherland. We don't have this right. We don't have right for speak outside or gathering or rally. So this thing shocked me. So that day I was participate. I'm one of the protest crowd. So I feel really encouraged because that day there are more than 5,000 people in the Logan Square, which is the Meyer that food live there. So that day is my first day to experience what is rally, what is protest, what is fighting for our lives, fighting for our rights. So this is my first time. And recently I became the Miss Chinese Chicago 2020 contestant for the pageant. So I'm one of them. So I'm really happy, I'm really honored to be one of this pageant. And me and my another partner in our pageant, she's also another contestant. And me and her that day after our activity for the New Year, Chinese Lunar New Year, after we went to the red line, near from the, just near from there, the red line station. And there's a one African American just follow us and just say, oh my God, what's this, something like that. And like look at us really, really weird. And after he went to the same car with me and her name is Mary. So she originally from Georgia. So that day, that guy they kicked her leg really, really bad, and she immediately cried in the car. And a lot of a lot of passengers also they are looking for her, crying that kind of badly, and they wanna just report him, ask the subway to stop. But the Mary was really scared because she was thinking if she report this guy, maybe something will happen next. Maybe this guy will do something bad. Maybe that guy carried with a gun. Who knows, So she was really, really scared after she said she'll never go to the red line again. So this is another thing happened to me recently. That guy didn't do anything bad to me, but I feel a little bit scared too because I was only sitting near from her. So it's kind of only one thing happened to me because I think the Stop Asian Hate thing is really huge now, but this Asian hate never happened to me because every day, I try to dress like a swag person, I'm really cool girl. I'm not like a typical Chinese, really traditional, I'm trying to be really cool like this. So I try to be friends with foreigners, with all the different divided kinds of countries. And also I'm married, my husband is Ukrainian. So recently there's a war between Ukraine and Russia. The China and Russia, they're really good friends, but for now, I'm really standing with Ukrainian because I know they're really good people, they're really innocent. Now it's happened to me, I feel really bad. So my husband, as a Ukrainian soldier before, in 2014, he was leading all the group to fight with all the government that moment. Now he's organizing one protest, happened 2 weeks ago, and last week, we rally in front of the China ambassador. So he was leading 15,000 people to fight for Ukrainian freedom and the victory. So this kind of thing inspired me too. It's really encouraging me. So I was thinking, if I can be one part of the Stop Asian Hate, at least some participate this kind of how to say, anything happen around us, even the protest or event on today is holding yoga and meditation activity. I was really grateful because I can be the witness of the history, and we can have the Asian women power to change the world. So I think everybody can join this kind of activity to raise our power and tell all over the world hear us. That's why I'm here now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Midu, for sharing your story. This is really the purpose of this event. It is not only first and foremost, it is to remember the 1-year anniversary of the Atlanta spa shootings. Many AAPI women lost their lives during that tragic event, and we hope that they will never be forgotten, and that the voices of AAPI women across the nation will be heard. And that is why Asian Justice Movement is organizing this national event, and why we here in Chicago are doing the very same thing to join that movement, to speak out. That is why we have this open dialogue segment. So I do hope that if you would like to share a story, either similar to Midu's or your own personal story, or a message you'd like to send to the nation, please do write it down on the sticky notes over there so that we could get our voices heard, because we are traditionally a very unheard demographic, an unheard population. First and foremost, I would like to talk about the rundown of today's events. So we just had the open dialogue session. Next, we will have a self-defense session led by Natasha Chan. She is a 10-year Krav Maga practitioner, as well as a board member of Asians Are Strong, which is a great organization that is teaching people how to defend themselves in scenarios like the one that Midu just brought up. Then we also have Elizabeth Smith, who will be leading a session on meditation. We'll have a healing circle. And then we have Shuhan and Eva from Easy Yoga Space, who will be leading a yoga session. And finally, we'll end the night with a virtual Korean drums performance by the youth of K-PAC. So to kick us off, let's have Natasha Chan come up for her self-defense Q&A session. Natasha?
A lot of the events that you hear about in the news, unfortunately, only cover the coast, but it doesn't mean that things aren't happening here in the community. So, no worries. But yeah, it just means a lot. So really, really appreciate everybody coming out tonight. But a little bit about myself. So yes, this is me in the video here, but my name is Natasha. By day, I work at Salesforce. So I'm a lead creative strategist with Salesforce. I love my job. Essentially, I'm a professional storyteller helping to share with our customers how Salesforce can transform their business. But by night, I work for this organization called Asians Are Strong, which is on my shirt here. And very much like Victoria was mentioning, it's a really amazing organization that just really moved me to my core, and it's one of the big reasons why I decided to become part of the board. But I'm originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I think like, many of you, the attacks on the elderly are what really just disturbed me. Just the fact that, my grandma or my mom could go grocery shopping and I would have to worry that, something could happen to them. I think a lot of us were feeling really helpless last year and kind of looking for a way to actually make a change. And, as much as talking about it, sometimes it kind of feels like we're screaming into the ether. It's like me talking about it is not going to stop my grandma from getting pushed or attacked or shoved in the streets. So when I first heard about Asians Are Strong, I actually saw them on KTSF, so it was a local Chinese news station back in the Bay Area, and it was security camera footage of two of our founders chasing after some people who had robbed some tourists and taken their luggage. And I loved the fact that, they kind of became their own heroes. They took into action, chasing after this situation and trying to help people that they didn't even know. And so I got to learn more about the organization, and they actually try to empower the community through self-defense workshops. So it started by leading these self-defense workshops for the elderly in different Chinatowns, but since then we've expanded just outside of San Francisco into this national movement in Chicago and San Francisco, in New York, all across the country. And they're actually one of the hosts of this Asian justice movement as well in San Francisco. So again, that's a little bit about me and my background. And as Victoria mentioned, I've also been training in Krav Maga for the last 10 years. So for people who don't know what that is, it's a form of Israeli martial arts. So it's used by law enforcement, military, police, and it was originally used by the Israeli military just to train their soldiers. And so this form of self-defense is very practical, so it's something that I really, really enjoy. And my mom actually encouraged me to take this form of self-defense just to learn how to protect myself, when I went off to college and I moved away from the Bay Area. So when I first started out with Krav Maga, I was explained to Ashish, who's going to be a volunteer in a little bit. I actually did Taekwondo growing up, and so I was like, oh no, I can hold my own when I go to Krav Maga, but it was a totally different world. I almost cried in my first class. People are very aggressive, and one of my coworkers, she was here as well. I brought her to class with me, and she can attest that it's really intense, but it's also very empowering. Today, I wore heels, I wore jeans, as I'm gonna do some of these self-defense demos to show you all that you don't have to be a jacked dude to protect yourself and to stand up for yourself. You can be strong, you can be powerful, but you have to know the right techniques to protect yourself. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. I'm gonna do a few just intro slides so that you can learn a little bit more about self-defense. I'll show you some moves and then we'll do a Q&A portion. So just fast forward a little bit. So again, just to kind of set the stage for why we're here and why we're even talking about this. I think it's been really top of mind lately, unfortunately with Christina Lee, with Grace in New York, getting pushed into the subway tracks, just going home late at night. These are all things that I think, unfortunately, women have to worry about. And it sucks to have to constantly feel regardless of your race, that if you're a woman, you are at risk just by existing and by doing your daily things in your life. But you don't have to feel that way. It is going to take time to move past this mindset that you're a victim. But you have the tools and the means to protect yourself and to be strong. So I want to talk about that today. So again, I like I mentioned, change is a journey, right? So it starts by empowering yourself, learning some personal safety. Once you feel a little bit stronger, that's when you can go out into the community and advocate for others as well. And when all of us are collectively working together, that's when we're really going to see powerful change. So that's a little bit more about just my background, Asians Are Strong, and what we're striving for. And some of our call to actions are, again, be your own hero. Don't be passive. You know, if you yourself see things that are happening, you know, you mentioned your friend who was on the subway, you know, like the hope is that other people are also going to step in and fight for you too, and so you don't feel like you're by yourself. And again, like we all need to be brave together. It's going to take some time to get there, but hopefully the session and continuing to be involved in these types of things will help encourage you. So some of the videos that you see playing, again, I'm going to be showing you some things today, but it by no means will become part of your muscle memory unless you are consistently practicing self-defense. If you have questions about like certain moves, you can always watch YouTube videos, but the absolute best thing you can do is actually go and train. So I'll talk a little bit more about resources at the end of like where you can go and like actually get self-defense training. But in the meantime, I highly encourage you to check out our Instagram account, Asians Are Strong. So our founders are all trained in different types of martial arts, like judo, Muay Thai, again, myself with Krav Maga, but we post little snippets of videos of different self-defense moves that you can practice at home. And I specifically have started doing a video series for women. And so we have one video about what to do if you think that you're being followed, and then another video if you're walking into an empty parking lot or garage at night, like some of the things that you can do. So I encourage you to take a look at that. And then again, as we go into the self-defense session, Victoria, she crowdsourced some questions that people might have. So I just wanted to kind of preface this session by saying, this is what I mean when I'm talking about self-defense. It's okay. The very first thing is that you want to mitigate harm to yourself. The second thing is that you want to try and get control of the situation, and all of those things will help you kind of stall and go and get help. You shouldn't always feel like you have to fight back in a situation. We actually always encourage you to save fighting and for the very last resort. Like if you can run away, if you can ask for help, that's the best thing that you can do. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but I get a lot of questions about weapons. Like, again, I've been training for 10 years and I still don't feel comfortable with weapons. So the best thing that you can do is to run away. And that does not mean that you are weak, it just means that you are safe. So just keep those things in mind. All right, so we're going to do demo now. So I'm going to show you 3 things that I think are going to be super helpful. But if after these 3 things, if you have any other burning curiosities about like attacks or things that you're curious about, happy to demo some of those. But Ashish, if I could get your help. The first thing that I'm going to show is a push kick. So this is something that you can do to help create space if someone is coming towards you. So Ashish actually shared the situation with me earlier where he mentioned that he saw on the street recently, you know, this woman was just walking and this guy was like coming up to her, getting a little bit aggressive and like getting in her personal space. So this is something that you can do just to push someone away and create space. Or if you're getting backed up into a corner, this is also something that you can do to create space. So this is called a push kick. All right, so in this situation, Ashish, I'm going to have you hold these 2 corners. And I'm going to have you brace. So when we do this in class, people kind of do like an anime fly sometimes, and they don't like brace themselves for it, so we always want to prep our partners. But again, for a push kick, I'm going to be wearing heels, so you can do this too if you're coming home from work. But the most important thing that you want to do is chamber up. So if you think of it as like a slingshot, you want to make sure that you're pulling back so that you can push as much force forward as possible. And when you're doing this type of move, you want to think about kicking so hard that you're breaking down a door. So that is what you're trying to do to create space. So I'll do it slowly first, and then I'll show you like what full force looks like. So you want to make sure that you're chambering up and then pushing it full. And then when you're doing it full force, you might be scared or you might be feeling a little bit tense. So you want to make as much noise as possible, like shout if you have to, whatever you need to do to get the tension out of your body. So, ready? So you want to just scream because that will also help get attention too. But that's called a push kick. And again, this is to create space if you're pushing down a door. So do one more time.
Yeah.
Ready? So again, I'm small, I'm wearing heels, and you can do it too. So the next thing I want to show you is a bear hug. So there's 3 different ways that you can do this. So in this situation, like let's just say a lot of women are scared, like I'm gonna be walking in the park, or I'm walking down a dark street. What if someone like drives up next to me and grabs me and tries to pull me into a car? So if someone comes up behind you, there's a few different situations that you might be in. So the first one is, let's just say that your arms are free. So Ashish will grab me, and I want you to grab me tight. So in this situation, like in class, we always want to feel what it will actually feel like so that you're more used to the sensation of someone grabbing you. So if your arms are free, the first thing that you want to do is base yourself. So think about, you can let go now. So the first thing that you want to do is think about, you know, when you go to the mall, if a 2-year-old is throwing a tantrum, if their parents are trying to drag them out of a store, they'll throw all their weight on the ground. So that's what you want to think about as you're trying to like feel heavy. So go ahead and grab me. So I'm going to try and base myself. And as I'm doing that, I want to push my hips out as well. Because if someone's trying to lift me up, so if you see from the side, as Ashish is trying to lift me up, he has to be upright. But as soon as I push him backwards, it's really hard for him to pick me up. So that's why from this situation, I'm trying to base myself and push back at the same time. And when he's already bent over, I'm going to either slap the groin, and you want to use a full palm to get everything. We call this ringing the bell. Because if you use your fist, you could hit his leg. It's not as effective, but if you slap, you're going to get everything. It's going to be a lot more painful. So you want to ring the bell, and then you use your elbows, and you can come up and hit him in the head as well. Okay, so that's one way, and then he'll let go, and then you can run away. So that's if your arms are free. But let's just say, you know, your arms are not free. So he'll grab me like this. From here, you want to do the same thing, but you have to get this freed up first. So if you just base yourself, one thing that you risk is that his arms could come up and put you into a choke. So what you want to do in this situation is, if someone grabs you like this, it's counterintuitive, but you want to hold their hands as you base, ring the bell, anything you need to do to get your arms out. And then from here, in Krav Maga, we always say, attack at least 3 or 4 times. So in this situation, like, if I'm ringing the bell, I get my arms out, that's 2. There's still 2 more attacks that I have to do. So once you're out, if they're still close to you, push kick, like hammer to the face, anything else to like get them away, and then you run away. So the next last step is kind of the worst case scenario. If you actually get picked up, I can show you what to do. So my arms are trapped, and he picks me up. You want to wrap your foot and then kick up into the groin. And so in this case, he's going to let me go. So you have to brace yourself that you're going to get dropped. But then you want to square up. And then again, push kick, anything you need to do to get this person away, and then run away. Does that all make sense? Okay. And then, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But the last thing that I'll show you is choke. So another thing that a lot of women worry about, like, again, let's say that you're at a subway station, you know, no one's around, and someone pushes you into a wall and starts to choke you. Like, how do you get out of that situation? So Ashish can apply the choke. So the first thing that you want to do, maybe that's not right. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to shoot your arm straight up. And the reason for that is because I'm trying to pin this hand as close as possible to my neck. I'm going to turn violently, and that breaks the hold. And and then I'm gonna come down and break it this way, and then elbow, elbow, and then knee and push. And then from there you can like run away. So I'll break it down again. So if someone's doing this, if they're choking you, you wanna shoot your arm straight up, turn violently to break that hold, come down, elbow, elbow, knee, and push away. Okay? Does anyone want to try? Okay.
My feet are asleep.
Yeah. And is there anyone in particular that you want to try? And I can be the attacker.
What do you mean? Oh, and elbow?
Yeah, any of these. Maybe not. You can try the push stick too. I can hold the pad for you. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any? Okay. All right. So remember, when you do this, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're chambering up, and then you're pushing. Think about kicking through a door. Okay? You ready? Nope. You can just hold your hands up. So you want to make sure that you chamber up.
Is there any place that I should be aiming for?
Middle.
I don't know if I put.
You can do slow. Let's do it in steps. So first you chamber up, and then you want to put your foot flat against here and push as if you're trying to kick through a door. Right? Good. And one other thing that, yeah, awesome job. One other thing that I will say too is that I think the point of going to self-defense training is that again you're used to these motions of people like kicking you or hitting you, so that when it happens in real life, you're not just so shocked that you're stunned. And for me, like, and what I love about Krav Maga is I have a lot of inner rage. She makes fun of me because, have you all seen Turning Red with Maylin? Like, that is me. Like, I have a lot of fire inside. So when I do Krav Maga, like, I get angry. And, like, that's what I want all of you to also channel to when you're in these situations. Like, get angry, get aggressive. Like, how dare this person touch me? And I think if you channel that, that will also help you be stronger when you hit too.
Can I try one more time?
Of course, try as many times as you want. Get angry. Yeah, do it. Good. Does anyone else want to try? Yeah? Which one would you like to try? You want to do the choke? Okay. So I'm gonna walk you through it again. So we'll do it this way. So if someone's choking you, I'll take a video. Alright, so if someone's choking you, you want to make sure, yep, and then you turn violently. Good. I don't even need to tell you. Yeah. So do it slower. So you want to shoot your arm straight up, turn violently, break. Yep. And then one other thing you can do, but you can also knee. But this would require you to grab someone and then pull them down, and then knee, and then push. Okay? Yeah. Good. Awesome. Yep. All right. And then maybe anyone want to try doing a bear hug? Bring volunteers. Victoria, can you have me try? Sure. All right, so just a reminder, so I'm going to grab you, and then you're going to try and throw all your weight down like an angry 2-year-old, and then ring the bell, and then elbow to the head, whatever you need to do to get away. Okay, so we'll try it with arms free and then arms trapped. All right, so good. Good. Awesome. Good. Okay. And then if your arms are trapped, good. Yes. Awesome. All right. So hopefully those were some helpful tips for you all. But I also wanted to just address some of the Q&A that Victoria collected. But one of the biggest questions that we often get is, what if someone's stronger and bigger than you? So again, I hope just seeing some of this helps kind of alleviate some of that. Like, it is obviously going to be scary. Like, if someone is bigger and more powerful than you, like, strongly holding on to you or hitting you or pushing you. But again, that's why you have to go and train, so that you can be physically fit, but then then you're also prepared. If you're constantly holding pads for a partner, like your partner might be a man, and like getting pushed or hit by someone in class will help mentally prepare you for if something like that happens in real life. Another thing is, when do I use self-defense versus running away? So I think all self-defense experts will agree that running away is always the best option. If you can avoid a bad situation, you should do that. And you should only fight unless you absolutely have to. And a big part of knowing when to run away is having situational awareness. So, unfortunately, like if you're on somewhere like a subway, or it's hard to run away, if you notice that someone is coming towards you, if you can move closer to the front of a car where there might be more people or a conductor, where you can like push a button and ask for help, if you can get off at a stop even if it's not yours, all of those things can help you avoid a bad situation. So run away whenever you can and fight only if you have to. So the knife or the gun situation. So in this case, you should definitely avoid as much as you can. On our Asians Are Strong Instagram page, we actually had a knife expert come and teach some different defenses that you can do. But again, like you'll see the founders say, like, I don't know what to do in this situation. And unfortunately, it's something that you have to continuously train. And again, like there are certain things that you can kind of notice, especially with knife attacks. Like we break that down in one of our videos. There's certain things that people do before they like attack with a knife. So there are certain tells that usually knives are concealed and you don't know until they're like right coming at you. So you can watch this video to kind of get a sense of like some of the things that you could pay attention to, but again, like you have to get trained. Like no one knows what to do with a knife or a gun when it's there, but you can mitigate those situations if you're exposed to them more often. So unfortunately, I am not an expert with knives or guns, but Krav Maga does prepare you for those types of things. And then some common misconceptions about self-defense are kind of all the things that I just covered, that I have to be jacked, I have to, constantly be paranoid or just constantly on defense. But as long as you have the right training and tools, it can help make you more confident and stronger. But again, I can't emphasize enough, like you need to go and train. So I'm going to share just some quick resources, and then I'd love to open it up for Q&A. But if you want to support Asians Are Strong, like check out our website. You can also volunteer. We have a lot of virtual events as well as in-person events. And then if you want to train, I personally train at Krav Maga Force in the West Loop. There is also a personal trainer that I previously used at Underground Boxing and Conditioning. So that will help you if you've never punched, if you've never kicked before, just to build those basic blocks of like, knowing how to chamber, knowing how to have the right fight stance, like throwing a good punch. So those are great options. And with Krav Maga Force, if any of you are afraid to go to a class by yourself, like please reach out to me. Like I would love to take you to a class with me. First class is free, so definitely come and try it out. Again, like I brought my coworker Shiyu and her husband. It was great times. So definitely come if you'd like to get involved. But yeah, I'd love to open it up for any Q&A. People have questions. I'm happy to talk through like scenarios as well, or I can show you a few more things.
Do you have any advice for if someone spits on you?
I don't think I've ever been asked that before. But can you elaborate a little more?
So I haven't dated since 2019, and I'm trying to date again, but I'm really scared because one of the past guys that I dated was 6'6", and he sat on me, and I could not get out from under him. So.
And can you explain a little bit more? Were you lying down? Were you sitting in a chair?
I was lying down.
Okay, so it's if someone's straddling you.
Yeah.
Okay, so in those situations, again, you're going to have to go and train. But there's a lot of different things that you can do if you're on the ground or if you're elevated. But typically, we have a video about this on the Asians Are Strong Instagram page. But you're going to have to try and flip this person. So rather than trying to, I'm gonna show you, which will be a little awkward, but, so in this situation, if you're lying down and someone is trying to straddle you, like coming up this way or trying to push them is probably not going to be helpful. So you have a lot more muscles in your butt in this situation. So what you are going to try to do is like, this person is probably still able to straddle you even if your knees are up. So you're going to want to do a bridge in this situation to buck this person off and flip. And so in that situation, someone will probably lose their balance. And so you have to buck and flip. So we cover this in one of our videos, but that's just a good way to get someone off of you. But then if you remember Krav Maga, you have to do at least 4 attacks, right? So if you're able to do this and they're still like lying here, like hammer, like anything to just get this person away from you and then run away. But the other difficult things are like if you're in a confined space, like a home, for example, like if at any point you start to feel like a little creeped out by this person, you should probably like text a friend and just let them know that you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Just say, I need to go to the bathroom, like text a friend. So at least someone knows that like you're in a weird situation and they can come check on you. But yeah, that would be my tip for that. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any advice or suggestion when the attacker is more than one person?
Yes. Okay. So we do cover this in Krav Maga as well. So what we do in class is like multiple attacker drills. So usually we'll have one person in the center and then multiple people around you like trying to attack you, and then you have to fight your way out of it. So in this situation, again, it's going to take a lot of practice, but you have to get used to one, being tired and continuing to fight, but then also knowing how to not waste any of your movements. So for example, like when you're punching, if I have to like stop and think again and then turn, like you have to be aware that someone might be behind you, but then you have to load up and do something from the front. So it's just a matter of practicing. But again, this is going to be like a spatial awareness thing. Like if you see a group of people and you're by yourself and you start to feel a little bit afraid, before even going down into that situation, like think about it, like should I maybe wait? Should I go somewhere else? Should I call someone? So that would be my advice for that. But Krav Maga definitely covers that if you want to try it out sometime.
Very great demonstration, by the way. And I have a question is that I noticed a lot of women who wear glasses. So what if at night we get attacked and then we lose our glasses? What are things we can do?
Yeah, so I hope it encourages you that I would be wearing my glasses most of the time as you've been doing it. I'm very blind, so if I lost my glasses, like I would just be screwed. But I don't know that I can really suggest anything in this situation. Again, you're going to have to train. So in Krav Maga, we actually do practice with our eyes closed. So there are situations where you just have to get used to like standing there, and if someone hits you, like what are you going to do? But it has to become muscle memory so that you can fight without having to see. It's more based on like sensing and muscle memory. So again, training, continuing to get used to the sensation of like what your body will naturally react to if you're constantly forced to use those muscles. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I was thinking from the beginning, they're not very angry. They just want to take money and your phone and your computer from you. But after you protect yourself, they feel more angry, so more aggressive. So from the beginning, without protection, maybe you go alive. But after the angry, they kill you. So this kind of happen. What should we do? Because if you kick them, they will feel more angry. It's definitely going to do something like that.
Yeah, so a couple layers here. So one of the questions that we get a lot is like, I'm afraid to like react or like to acknowledge or to confront somebody. Like what if I'm being racist, you know, or like what if this isn't actually someone who's just trying to attack me? Like maybe they're trying to like ask me for directions or something, you know? Like there's that hesitation, but it's better to like protect yourself and just be sure, if even if you end up embarrassed push them away and they start to get angrier, right? So that's why in Krav Maga, the whole point of Krav Maga is to injure your opponent so that they can't continue coming back at you. So when you are doing these types of moves, Krav Maga is very forceful, aggressive, like you need to get angry. So when you're actually like injuring a person, like if you elbow someone in the head, if you ring the bell, like that is going to immobilize somebody so that they can't continue coming after you. So you have to make sure that every time you don't have any wasted movements, like if you are actually engaging in self-defense, that you're hitting hard. So you have to keep training and practicing to get used to that. But it's okay to be angry in these situations.
So there's one more.
Yeah.
So that moment you kick his ass, right?
Yeah.
And after he remember your face, and he's following you after you kick his ass. So he will do something bad next time. So you will have worse situation.
Yeah. So these are a lot of like what ifs that you don't necessarily know for sure, but like let's just say worst case scenario, right? Like you leave your purse there, they have your phone, they have your ID, like you have to call the police, right? You have to put in a report, and if you need to avoid that area, like that's what you're gonna have to do. But at least you have your life, right? Like you can easily avoid an area, like you can put in a police report, but I would encourage you to like not worry about like, oh, I'm gonna live in fear, like you have to think about like my life is the most important thing, like I'll deal with everything else later, but I just need to get out of this bad situation first. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, a lot of people that I've talked to suggest them to start taking Krav Maga, to take karate, they're first of all afraid for themselves because just in the process of learning, you have to get hurt. How would you encourage these people to start to go to that first class you were talking about?
Yeah. So I think once you survive your first class, I did it, like this is great, But I think there's usually for me at least, like there's a big adrenaline rush afterwards, and you're like, wow, like I didn't know my body was capable of doing that. So I think once you go once and you see like, oh, it wasn't so bad, like I'm fine, it will hopefully encourage you to keep going. But I would highly recommend not quitting like after the first time. Like again, I did Taekwondo for maybe about 3 or 4 years before I did Krav Maga, and I cried like after my first class because it was just scary. I'd never been hit that hard before. And there was a woman who like put me in a headlock. She was like dragging me around class, but I felt really strong afterwards. I was just like, wow, if someone did this to me in real life, like I would actually know what to do now. So it's gonna take some time, but I think it's very normal to feel scared and to feel uncomfortable. But I would just encourage you to just try. And you can always go with friends too, and like you can talk about your experiences after. But it helps to have like other people that you can talk to about it. That's what I love about my Krav Maga gym. Like we have such a strong community. One of the instructors at Krav Maga Force is actually a female cop, and so she'll talk about her experiences too, like on the job sometimes. So it's just nice to have that community.
Hello. So I had a question regarding since there's a lot of cases of being pushed from the back or
Yes.
being hit.
Yeah.
Since it's hard to see that
Yes.
coming, how do you brace yourself?
Yes. So Krav Maga teaches you this as well. So Ashish, since you're up here. Okay. So we call this move the J-Lo. So if you come from behind me, so let's just say I'm walking. You can kind of like push me as I'm walking. So, but you want to like shove me into a wall. So let's keep your hands on me. So usually in this situation, we call this the J-Lo because you're gonna turn and it's like it's this motion. So if you keep your hands on me, like you're gonna want to turn and hold, and then you want to keep pushing this person and use their own momentum to throw them into a wall, and then from there you can just keep running away. But let's just say like, so if you come back behind me again, let's just say they're grabbing onto you, so maybe grab my shoulders. Yeah. So from here, it's similar type of motion, but you'd want to grab this person and grab their clothes, bring them down, and then knee, push. But so in this situation though, you have to get used to the sensation of like if someone's coming up behind you, that you naturally react to do that, rather than just like letting them push you forward. But a part of the J-Lo too is also yourself, it allows you to spin and do that movement. So it's a lot about stabilizing, knowing that you can sense that someone is coming up behind you, and then just paying attention, like if there's a wall in front of you, letting them use their own momentum to throw them forward. But again, think about those multiple attacks, like if you have to grab them, knee them, push, and then run away.
Can we do it in group?
Yeah, sure. So if he's pushing me, and just keep your hands on me. So rather than one push, like trying to push me into a wall, so keep going. So from here, it would just be pushing. And then if you do it again, I can hold you. So grab my shoulders while you're pushing. Yeah, so push, and then from here, you can grab their clothes, bring them down, knee, and then push. Yeah.
So I have a question about those classes.
Yeah.
So like in those classes, do you actually like hit your classmates,
Oh,
like
yeah.
for real?
Not really, not in the face, like we have pads, so like that's why I brought, my kick shield today, so like, we will hold these for our classmates, so like I will hold and like Ashish will kick me, right? Or it's like, when we do knees, I'll go like this, and then my partner will like knee me in the stomach, or we do like roundhouse kicks, or we do punches, so we always have a pad, but there are sparring classes that are more advanced, so in that situation, there's no pads. But you'll wear like mouth guards, some people wear like shin guards, so that's like a sparring class, it's a little bit more advanced. We also have a weapons class as well, so if you're interested in like what to do with like a bat, or if we have like knife classes, but those are all much more advanced. We also have women's workshops as well on Sundays, so if you're specifically interested in like a serious like mugging or kidnapping or anything like that, you can go to a women's workshop. So there's lots of different things that you can try.
You kind of answered it already, but I was interested in doing martial arts, but I found that there are a lot of spaces are very like masculine, and it's hard for me to find a space where I'm comfortable with like people like me, like feminine, like smaller. Where can I find like you mentioned the women's on Sunday? Are there more groups or workshops that are centered around non-men?
So that's the only one that I know of that's just women only, is those women's workshops. But one thing I would encourage you to think about is that, and they always tell us this in class too, like you aren't always going to be attacked by a woman, right? Like you are unfortunately going to get attacked by a man sometimes, and like if you really truly want to know what to do in these situations, you have to feel what it feels like to get hit by a man. It's scary, but once you feel more comfortable, maybe you can start in the women's workshops, and like especially having a female instructor, like she'll understand some of the things that you might be concerned about. When you feel ready, you can try going to some of these classes that are mixed men and women. I would say 95% of the time there will be another woman in class, and it might just be the two of you that get paired up, and you can do this type of stuff together in a class full of other men. But eventually, like you should try and practice like what it's like to have a male partner. But again, check out Problem Golf Force. Every month on a Sunday they have women's workshops. Thank you.
What do you think about like carrying pepper spray?
That's another good question. Do you have any?
I used to in college. My parents sent me off with it in college, and then I was like, this is at the bottom of my bag. And then I once accidentally sprayed it on the wall because I was just trying it. And, I was like, this is nonsense. Like, it's not, I would rather like carry my keys between my fingers or something like that, because I just felt like not prepared with the pepper spray.
Yeah.
And if I was gonna use it, I might mess it up and
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. So I'm curious, how many people have pepper spray? Okay, almost everyone. How many people have actually used it before? Okay, one person. And so that, just looking at the demographics here, right? So the majority of women who have pepper spray have actually never used it before. And so to your point, they'll have it on their keys, they'll have it in their bag, but how often do you have it aimed and like ready to use?
Yeah.
Like, do you know the distance? Is it windy that day? Like it's a great tool to have if you know how it works and you've actually used it before. So if it spray in the grass or something, like see how far it shoots. And if you feel unsafe, make sure that you have your thumb like on it when you're like at the subway and it's ready to go if you need to use it. But we always say, you know, the best self-defense is like your own hands and your legs. With the keys thing, same thing, right? It's like if you have your keys between your hands, then do you actually know what to do in that situation? Would you be comfortable stabbing someone with them? So some things to think about. I also have a lot of friends who have knives on them, but again, like, could that person take it and use it on you? So just think about these things if you ever want to have weapons. You can if it makes you feel safer, but just make sure that you've tried it before and that you actually know how to use it when you're facing a bad situation or you're tense, and when you're actually walking in an area where you feel unsafe, like have it ready and out so that you're not like, oh my gosh, like I'm looking through your purse, you know, where you can't find it, and lots of your pockets and things like that.
Do you think a sound alarm is helpful?
I do think it's helpful because in these situations, if you're by yourself and no one can hear you getting attacked, it's not likely that someone will come to your aid. But it can also aggravate the situation if you're just standing there and like your alarm goes off, and then what? You know, it's like this person might try and like attack you quickly and like run away. So it's helpful, but also make sure that you're doing other things too.
I also heard like the best ways to deal with like a pickpocket situation is just to like give them your stuff.
Always, yeah, it's always best to, your belongings are just things, right? You can always replace them, but you can't replace your life. So give whatever they want, purse, it's not worth fighting for it.
What about negotiation? So when I was in Las Vegas, there's 4 African American men. They went to the elevator. So from beginning, they want to take the money I earned from the casino, like $29. So that's a lot of buy something. After I just negotiation, they decided, you know what, they didn't take it.
Yeah.
So I think from beginning, you talk to them really funny way, maybe they will not even do anything bad.
Yeah. I like your spirit a lot. I mean, I think this is where like the intuition kicks in, right? You know, if you feel like, oh, okay, you know, maybe they're just joking around, or you know, it feels fun. Like if you feel like you can, you know, talk about it, that's fine. But when you start to feel unsafe, like that's when like you should start to listen to that. And like again, totally not worth money, anything. It's like not worth it. You just need to get out of the situation.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Natasha. Again, that was Natasha Chan from Asians Are Strong. Please take note of the Asians Are Strong Instagram and hit her up if you have any questions. Next up, we will have Elizabeth Smith come up for a meditation session. I think we would like to have everyone sit on the floor if possible, or if not, in one of the seats in an oval shape so that we could have a healing circle.
Hello everyone. I was debating on whether or not to use the mic. So, as we get started with this practice, I want to also just acknowledge that some of us may feel more comfortable on the floor, some of us may feel more comfortable in a seated chair, having a wall to our back. Some of us may need to lie down, shift our weight. All of that is accepted. It's important that you're honoring your experience today. Maybe coming in, what's happening for you in your body. It's also important to keep in mind that for some people, meditation may be something that you've experienced before. It might not be, and that is okay. Wherever you are in your journey, and your healing journey, it's okay to be compassionate and kind to yourself, and kind to how you're doing today. I think that all of us being here together is quite remarkable, and I really want to extend gratitude to everyone who has organized this event today. And it's very clear how much it's needed. Everyone here is present for a reason. It's also important to keep in mind that any adjustments to any sort of wording or any sort of movement is also important to keep in mind. All bodies, all minds are welcome and are worthy. In some of the things that we're going to do today, there's some tension and release. It's important also to keep in mind that if you have high blood pressure, glaucoma, any heart disease or things, that you can also make adjustments for that too. So, as you're getting comfortable, and as everyone is getting comfortable, we also have some people joining us. So we'll just welcome everyone as you are. So as we're getting started, it's also important to keep in mind that if there are any terms that are being used, certain body parts that are, for instance, sensitive, if you have prior experiences in certain realms, it's okay to switch out those words. It's okay to pay attention to that and to switch out to different areas of our bodies. We'll try to stick to some safe ones, like our hands and our feet. But if there are any sensitivities or anything that people need altered, it's important that you know that you can alter that and that you have agency. You do not have to follow what anyone else is saying that you have to do. You have choice. So even terms like ancestor might bring up things for people because there has been some pain and intergenerational things that have been passed down too. So we'll acknowledge that. And if you would like to switch that word out for another term and to use other images, that's completely welcome. So I'll invite us to get comfortable with where we're sitting, to notice the support, and to know that everything today is an invitation. We're going to relinquish demands. We've had a lot of those placed upon us already. So noticing the support of the ground beneath you. If you would like to, you're welcome to close your eyes. If that doesn't feel comfortable, a soft gaze is perfectly okay. And invite yourself to notice what you're noticing. It's okay if your mind is wandering. And it's okay if at this time anyone needs to take a break. We're just going to be respectful of everyone's minute. Breathing in and exhaling. Now I invite you to even sigh out loud. To make noise. To take up space. And to know that you are worthy. So, as you're breathing and getting adjusted to the space, the temperature, sound of my voice, I'm going to invite you to notice your breath as you breathe in and out. There's no need to make your breath deeper or shallower. Just let it do its thing. Notice within yourself if there are any shifts, things that need to change for you. Perhaps that's an area that you need to protect, and that's okay. Every person here is a human being, and you have a birthright to being, to existing. And there's no need in this moment to do. And as you breathe, that is your life force. Entering. Notice that sensation. We're all here together in this oval. tell if they're breathe in that power. You're not alone. At this time, I'm trying to encourage everyone, if you feel comfortable, to tighten your fists. Tighten, tighten, hold, hold, and release. Feel the warmth of energy flowing through your fingertips. And notice what you're noticing. If that feels okay, perhaps you would like to tighten other areas, your arms, shoulders, with your next inhale. And release. Keeping in mind what feels comfortable for your body. Feel the warmth of energy flowing through. Perhaps you would like to tighten your feet, depending on your shoe wear. Perhaps you can curl your toes. Tighten, tighten, hold, hold, and release. And if that felt okay, perhaps you would like to tighten your feet, calves, thighs, and release. Notice the sensations that you're feeling. And notice if there's anything particularly tense at this time. I invite you to scan your body. Perhaps you'd like to start at the top of your head. Perhaps you'd like to start at the ends of your toes. As you want to do, notice what feels more loose, what feels more tense. As you notice that, attempt, if you like, to release it. As your mind wanders, as it will, acknowledge that with open curiosity. We don't have to judge. Not right now, not in this moment. Today is a hard enough day. It's a day that's brought up a lot of unsaid things for many people. As you think about these things that may have not been said, that maybe you haven't even put words to yourself, imagine that located in your body. What shape is it? Maybe it has a texture. Maybe it has color. Locate it and roll it. If you can, think of it rolling out of you with each breath. If you need to, imagine holding it. Maybe you can hold it with one hand or two. If it's feeling particularly stuck at this time, imagine that you have others helping you. Perhaps they're ancestors. Perhaps it's a particular image of strength. And know that they are here to help you. That you are never alone. Release it. Moving on. Again. And before we come together again, if you've closed your eyes, perhaps you'd like to put the palms of your hands to your eyes and press in a bit. And spin one of your fingers to gradually allow it in as you invite yourself back into the room to bring your conscious awareness from inward back to outward. How was that for people? Yeah. things that a lot of us have talked about today has been how much events, especially being in the media, has made an impact for people to recognize unaddressed traumas, undigested traumas, and things that a lot of us have experienced. I didn't quite have the language maybe to put that to. So earlier, we had an open mic, sharing, and as more people joined, this is another opportunity for us to open the floor and bear witness to one another, and to be witnessed. Pretty sure this is being live streamed, so also putting that out there. And we won't call this a safe space, partially because we're not going to say how someone should feel. Right? You're going to feel the level of safety that you feel, and that's okay. But also, it is being live streamed, so. But I think it's important that we open up the space for anyone who would like to share more.
Thank you, Elizabeth. This had happened a long time ago, and it was nothing violent, but it still was very much imprinted in my memory when I was working at an Italian restaurant as a hostess, and I walked someone to their table, and the guest said, "Aren't there any other jobs in Chinatown? Why are you working here?" And I grew up in a pretty mixed ethnicity neighborhood and school system, so it was actually one of the first times, or probably even the first time, where it had hit me that I was different, or that people might think of me differently simply because of how I looked, or the ethnicity that they perceived me to be. And I just happened to be Chinese, but if I wasn't Chinese and I was another Asian ethnicity, then how would I feel in that scenario, on top of the fact that clearly they were just simply being racist? And that actually drove me to be more involved in Chinatown, because it made me realize that I possibly didn't even know my roots as much as I could have. And in that moment, as almost all of us have experienced, you don't know what to say. So in that moment, I just said, well, I'm working here, and then I walked away. But obviously, thinking after that, I was like, maybe I should have said something bolder, something to stand up for myself. So I really hope that going forward, and luckily this hasn't happened for a very long time, but I hope that going forward, if a scenario happened, that first of all, I would be able to defend myself. And then second of all, if the scenario were safe enough to, then I would be able to stand up for myself verbally and stand up for my community. So that was my experience. Thank you.
The love doesn't have to come back to me. It takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. It does. And in so many ways, there's a sense of safety in not saying anything. And as we just had this wonderful self-defense course by the organization Asians Are Strong, it is something to really those words to bring into ourselves. That we are strong, that we can be brave, that we deserve to be witnessed. I'm not sure that we need the mic.
It's funny, I was just talking to Cece today about how talking in front of other people makes me really nervous. And today I've just like talked in front of a lot of people. I really appreciate being here with everyone today. Yeah, I was just thinking about how when Stop Asian Hate started last year, I was seeing a lot of people, like Asian Americans on social media, like friends, but also just like Asian Americans being like, I am really like, I feel bad that I don't speak up, like I feel bad that I don't use my voice. I feel like I should be doing more, and that really made me sad, and I couldn't figure out why. And I feel like it's something that it's kind of complicated, because on one hand, like, there is the identity that a lot of us have of like East Asian culture or like South Asian culture, Asian culture in general, of the kind of like, at least I'm Taiwanese American, my parents are Christian, of like, you should be seen and not heard kind of mentality that is sort of prevalent. But what bothered me more was that like, it seemed like the blame was people were blaming themselves for not saying more, for not, as if like, if we didn't have this reputation, like as ethnicity, like cultural group, for not like talking back, like these things wouldn't be happening for us. And something that brought me a lot of comfort was watching the PBS Asian Americans episode, which I highly recommend if anyone hasn't watched it, in which they actually talk about the history of Asian America and how actually like Asian Americans were like the like, what's the word, like they paved the way for like immigration, like for citizenship, for like, because which was also like into like helped by the civil rights movement. But Asian Americans, like I feel very proud to be an Asian American in the United States. And I really try in my life and in my personal work and work life to honor like the history that we've had of organizing. Like for example, not a lot of people know that Yuri Kochimaya, if I'm pronouncing her name wrong, I'm sorry, like was one of Malcolm X's like greatest friends. Like Grace Lee Boggs, like revolutionary Asian American activist. So in that way, it's helped me feel more comfortable speaking up, because actually this isn't like unfamiliar, this isn't new. It's just that like in this country, we don't talk about Asian American history because they don't want us to feel unified. They don't want us to feel like we have a voice, but we do, and it matters. So I wanted to share that, and I hope you all feel empowered.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we had this space to reflect, because for me, back when I lived in New York City, so before the pandemic, I was on my way to work and on the subway heading to work, and someone's like literally like, go back to where you came from, like what the, and like no one around me said anything or did anything, and it was the morning going into work, and I was like, go to work. I'm like, okay, now I have to work, and there just wasn't really any place for me to like decompress and think about that. And I think about this past 2 years, and thinking about all of the violence against Asians, and kind of feeling like, you know, how can I, you know, I tend to, when I go to work, I kind of just have my work mindset, and it's been trying to figure out like, oh, how do I make sure that, you know, other people who identify as Asians in my workplace feel safe, or feel like they can talk about it. Or last year after the murders in Atlanta, we were working the next day, And luckily we did have someone to come in to help us through it, but for the past few months, I think I kind of just like been separating that, and so I'm really glad that we have this space and to see everyone here to just like take a pause and think about it, because I think I tend to just shut down and not think about it, or when I see the videos on my Instagram, like I don't want to see this, and I just scroll past it. But yeah, I'm great to see everyone here, so thanks.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for putting everything together and hosting the space. Something that I feel like I struggle a lot with, and especially just recently, even in the midst of like all this anti-Asian hate, is I was at an interview and it was a white man across the interview table from me, and he told me how well I spoke English and that he could understand me so well and I could carry a conversation and I was so fluent. And I just felt so angry because we're in 2022. Like, we should know better. And how he thought he was complimenting me. And because I was interviewed, because he was a white man, because I was an Asian woman, because he's the interviewer, I was the interviewee, I didn't have the power. And I don't think anyone feels like they have the power in those moments to say anything. And then on top of that, it's the layer, for me, and I can't speak for everyone, but for me, I'm able, like, in his words, spoke English so well at the cost of losing my own native language and the language of my homeland. And so that compliment not only is it racist, but it's also rooted in so much genocide, and cultural genocide and cultural assimilation, and the white supremacy of that. So that's something that, like, I still struggle with to this day. Like, and for me, it always comes up in a situation of like power imbalance. So I never know what to say, but yeah, that's just something that I want to share.
I think something I struggle with growing up is I feel like a lot of times Asians are seen as like weak, or like they won't like, it's like seen as a cultural norm to just like, as someone was mentioning earlier, suffer in silence. So growing up, if I ever saw people make racist comments or not be nice to me or other people, I often struggled with standing up for myself because I was just taught to just let it go or like let things go. However, the past few years, I realized how important it is to talk about it when like someone's being racist, call it out, challenge it, fight against it, because if you don't say anything, nothing will change. So one challenge I set for myself, even like the really small things, like if someone makes a really mean comment to you or a really racist comment to you, like don't just let it go. It's so important to challenge that. And even if you don't win a small battle, it's still a path forward. You're still moving in a direction that will like give you the strength to fight even larger battles in the future.
Thank you for organizing this space. I actually just moved out here from California, so it's kind of weird talking about these things because I never think I talked it out loud. But when I grew up, I got into many actually physical fights and altercations with people. Not because I wanted to, it was always started by somebody else, and I quickly learned at a young age that for me to not be seen as a weaker link, nobody can see that I was actually scared inside, but I had to put up a good fight. And so I found myself in many situations where I had to defend myself, and so I know how it feels to be violated,
but also I feel like I've never actually like thought about like what that did to me as an adult, as a person, you know. But it's interesting for me because like with all the stuff that's going on with Asian hate, I get really traumatized knowing the people that I care about are going to specific places that I know these things are happening. Because for me, sometimes I think about it, I'm like, and I told like, especially like the males in my life, because I've seen so many, growing up, I've seen so many people get into fights, people I really cared about, really get like, like just really torn up or messed up. And like, I always remember those feelings of how it feels to know someone who's actually like being brutally broken or hurt or have to go to the hospital or something like crazy like that. So for me, like, I don't say it out loud, but I truly am really scared when I know people that I care about. They're in these situations that I know sometimes it's not your problem, you know, you're in the wrong situation, wrong time, and you end up having to be in this place where, you know, where you're being hurt. And so like, a lot of times, you know, people, like my parents think I overreact. Like I tell them, you know, I bought them both pepper spray and they both didn't use it because they're like, I'm fine. But it's like that cry inside of me comes from that place of knowing what it feels like to have to fight for yourself and then also have like not being able to, sometimes you can't defend yourself, sometimes you're in these situations where you can't. And I think for me, like letting go would be just like me not trying to be always feeling like I have to prove myself that I'm not the weaker link. I feel like I put such a strong face on, but in reality, like I am like scared for people, and I am scared when I see those things because it just like traumatizes me. Like I didn't realize it was traumatizing for me, but like seeing those like videos and things, it just like reminds me, and it's like almost like I photoshopped in my head with people I know that look similarly, and I feel so like guilty. And like the thing about me is like I'm not very articulate like about the root issues and all these different things. I don't know how to argue it, but I'm not such an intuitive person. Like I know what someone's feeling that I literally have to tune myself out of that. And I get where you're coming from when you say like you feel bad that you're not speaking up, or it can be overwhelming to the point where you don't want to say anything because it's like you already feel it and like you're checked. I feel like I'm checked out sometimes, and like I want to feel like it's okay to be checked out sometimes because it is hard, you know. So anyways, I wanted to kind of like share that like experience in the terms of like, yeah, like I am like scared for people when they're at these different places, and eventually I hope to like get over my fears because like it's not like, you know, like I just moved out here and I'm like living alone and stuff like that, and I never like really fear for myself, but the trauma that I feel for like my family and my friends and my mom, and like hearing all these different stories about how the community get attacked, like that's what scares me, and like that's what keeps me up at night. So
I think that, I feel like I'm the oldest person in this room, but I just want to, like, you are all so inspiring for, you know, people, I guess my age, who, when I was, you know, in my 20s, starting college, starting my life on my own, I could never imagine, like, having to think about these things. I grew up in a predominantly Asian American community in California too, and I didn't realize I was a minority until I got to college. It was just that different for me. And now I have 2 kids that are mixed race, and trying to teach them, you know, how to be in the world is so confusing because I just never had to learn that as a kid. And so like, I'm just really so touched by all of your, you know, ability to just kind of come out here, share your experiences, try to get stronger and protect your other people in the community. I think that's really beautiful. And, you know, from all these, thank you, because it's just really inspiring. I think like I can get pretty complacent in, you know, taking care of my day-to-day, my life, my family, and my job, and this is really like moving to see how so many different complete strangers just are trying to support each other and the community and keep each other safe. That's really moving and inspiring and powerful. So thanks for making this event for everyone too.
So I think I'm the only person who volunteered here for 2 years. So I don't have any family member here, only myself. So I don't have any relatives here. So, but as a journalist, I went to all the protests, Colombia, Latino, Black Lives Matter, Pakistan, and recently Ukraine. But there's one problem with Asian community. They are so quiet. So every time I went to, there's a gun shooting. They shoot one doctor in the Chicago University. And last year, another one got shot in the garage. So they are two really, really high level, genius, but they got shot. But that moment, we have a small protest in the Chicago University, the square, and then nobody screamed, nobody just, oh yeah. So I think we need a little bit aggressive to let more people hear our voice, because we are too quiet, we are too traditional, we are not very, how to say, to express our emotion. So I think if we want more action or more attention on our society or our community, we have to be a little bit more aggressive to the protest. So more things, more action will be focused on us, because now we are too silent. So I think this is our next steps should do. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, okay. I would also like to do the thank you for organizing this event. It's meant a lot to me to be here. But as to the Asian community thing, I've been feeling really optimistic about it lately. I grew up in Kansas, so opposite, 0 Asians. I think the first Asian I ever met was in high school or something. And I didn't know Asian American was a term until sophomore year. So I was always very much I always felt really alone, in the Asianness, and then because of that, I felt really close to whiteness, almost paradoxically. I guess it's sort of similar to that you don't think you're any different from a white person because you don't think, you don't see the ways in which you are. But I feel especially after the pandemic, seeing all of these efforts in Chicago and New York and California and Texas has meant so much to me, because for the first time I learned about Teresa Hawking Cha for the first time a month ago. And I was oh my god, this kind of stuff was happening back then. Asian hate crimes aren't just in the last year, last 2 years, even though that's the first time I've ever heard about it, was the last year or 2 years. And Atlanta was the first time it sunk in for me. But the more I go into the history, the more I see that the Asian American community has always existed, even if it's not so much a community. But I felt a lot of that sort of community organizing lately, this event.
Also, thank you for leading the circle. I did want to mention that we kind of face a very specific set of stereotypes. For example, maybe the quiet Asian girl, or kind of being seen as submissive. So even if we don't fit into that stereotype, I think it just some people that might have that idea of East Asian women or Asian women, it kind of does add another extra layer to fight through, to kind of use our voices. Because with that stereotype, I'm thinking maybe it kind of sets this tone of where we might not be as heard as much, even if we do say something. So just mentioning that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because I feel there are certain set of aesthetics that attach to
what means to be like a good Asian girl, right? Like, especially like how other people perceive you. Like, with my personal experience, it's like, oh, like, it's odd to see you with like tattoos, with piercings, because you're not supposed to look anything other than timid and mild and like submissive. And like, from my personal experience, it's just such a thing that you have to fight against, not only just to people outside of the community, but like people who are like from an older generation too, because they have learned throughout the years, like these are the ways that they can keep you safe. These are the ways that you can be successful and like support yourself. So I think especially like recently, I had an experience like also like people telling me that my English is really good. Somewhat it's valid because I'm not from here. I'm not technically American. So, but also like I was born in Hong Kong, so like there you also, it's such a different experience because people expect you to be incompetent naturally in some ways. So I was a campus tour guide and I was like giving tours to, you know, prospective students and the parents who are white, and they told me, oh, your English is so perfect. I didn't expect that from you. And there's like went on and on about like how my English is so fluent. And I was like, thanks, yours too. And just like the freaking shock in their face, it's just like, now you understand what that feels like, because it feels unnatural and it's not supposed to be like that.
Thank you everyone for all of your sharing. So I personally like going through a trauma right now. I'm not gonna try to cry. Yeah. Oh, I guess it's disaster. Okay, there was a person who told me that there will be people who don't want to work with you because you're not white. And then, yeah, maybe I should stop. You know, like, so I was like, and then what makes me so upset is kind of like, I was like looking for my Asian community in school, and they're like, we have to speak up, and they're like, they chose to be silent. Because then, and I'm so disappointed in them, to be honest, and they're like, I was like, I'm supposed to merit the system, but why I'm not in my community? And then, it is so hurting to me. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna go through this. I'm not from here, and they're like, yeah, so it is really hard. So I want to like give everyone hope that like how could you deal with this? Yeah, and then because I understand my Asian friends, and they choose to shut up because they have that is their coping mechanism. Yeah, and it is so sad for me to like see that like they're just so used to it. So, and then even though it's so hard for me, so I don't know how to address this topic, but I just wanted to say that like being here means a lot, and then thank you.
Hello? I just moved from New York City like years ago, and I have a lot of my friends there who was also Asian. And recently I just wrote down the murder attack or whatever that just happened on the calendar, just trying to remember what is happening, and I do not want to forget them. And I cannot get away the feeling that that could be me, that could be my friend, that could be my aunt who's still living there. And I just feel like I want to do something. I reached out to the school organization as well, but I didn't get any response to how can I using my voice to be heard. And I'm very
appreciate that this organization happened, and thank you, Elizabeth, to invite me here. So if you have any more protests or whatever, just reach back. I'm very want to participate to that.
Yeah, I mean, with the mic or without the mic, I think it's really important to honor where we are right now and to acknowledge and thank you. It's very important to honor where we are right now in this space. And I know that some of us are still working through some very activating situations. And so I'm still going to be here in a bit after this. I also realized I didn't even introduce anything about myself when we got started. That's just where my head and heart space is, I guess. But I will be here after this for anyone that needs a little bit more discussion. Very much appreciate the space again. I know that we want to pass it over to the yoga. But so just to give a little bit of my background, before moving to Chicago, I'm actually from Atlanta. And so this was something that really impacted me on multiple levels. I'm also half Korean. Sometimes people say 1.5 generation because I moved to the States in early childhood. And I am a licensed clinical psychologist, which there are very, very few Asian American doing that work. And I am very honored to be invited here to hold space in ways that sometimes provide a little bit more comfort and understanding. So those are just some of the intersectional identities so that you can locate me if that does feel comforting for you after this. And I really feel everyone's heart today. And I know that we're all collectively experiencing a lot. So we're going to have a really wonderful healing yoga session. So if you would like to, we can do another collective breath together, if that feels good. And you do not have to stack your spine if you don't feel comfortable with that. It's what your body needs right now in this moment. And it's okay to give yourself that compassion and that grace to recognize what it is that you need right now. But I'll invite us to take a breath in for a count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, and release. 2, 3, 4, 5. If you choose to do breathing exercises after this, the out breath being extended is actually very the one that you want to pay the most attention to. So that can be the most releasing. I'm going to pass it on over.
Thank you so much. I'm wondering if anyone needs a water break, a bathroom break, or thank you so much. I'm so inspired by everyone sharing. We'll come back here if you brought it in. We'll set it up right in the front of the room. So I'll give everyone a minute.
It's like you're gonna. No.
Does anyone? Hi. Does anyone need a yoga mat? We brought a few extras. We don't have enough, I think, for everyone. If they didn't bring one. But these days are too. There's this one. Yeah, please keep your hands raised and we will guide you to us. Give me your hands. Does anyone else need? We'll face the front of the room. If you're so comfortable, if you don't have an hour, you want to participate, you could. There's actually 2 spots in the back here.
So we do have a limited amount of space. If everyone could potentially push their mat slightly forward and also slightly closer to each other so we can make room for everyone. Thank you.
There are 2 spots right up here on clean. 2 black, they're black mats up here.
I like a good chunky. I like pride too, so it would be nice to like have another
If anyone doesn't have a mat and still wants to join in on yoga, they said it's totally fine if you're comfortable to do it straight on the floor without a mat. So please feel free to join even if you don't have a mat.
And there's one more actually here. Yay.
Alrighty, we'll get started soon. Before we even start the class, I'd like to introduce myself and Shuhan here.
Hi everyone, I'm Shuhan. This is Eva, and we co-founded Easy Yoga Space last year.
because we're both very passionate about yoga practice, living your best life, and event planning. This was like maybe 2-3 summers ago. We met through the introduction of Eva's sister and started attending a series of yoga pop-ups around Chicago. And we realized, as good as those events are, but there isn't one that's really focused on Asian American community. So the first event we hosted this year, we actually cater dim sum and in addition to yoga practice, yes. And there are some mimosa there too, just for the extra fun. So during the day, we actually both work in healthcare, I mean healthcare analytics, and then in our spare time, this is what we do. Hopefully, you guys can start following us on Instagram at EZ Yoga Space, and we'll send out our next event announcements in our IG or newsletters. So yeah.
Thanks, Shuhan. My name is Eva. I'm so excited to be here and appreciative of the invite. I actually grew up like roaming down this street up and down Wentworth. I lived in the suburbs of Chicago and then also grew up every single weekend without missing almost a week or two on Wentworth Ave. So it's really heartwarming to be in a space like this and speak to young Asians, young Asian Americans, and just hearing your story. So I think as we go into our yoga practice, we're going to tie in some of the themes that you know, we have shared and experienced and heard, being, you know, grounded, and how do we collectively either share this space together, whether it's grieving, mourning, being scared, how do we center our bodies and combine movement with breath? So regardless if you've taken yoga before or if you're a seasoned practitioner, we're just gonna cue different things, and as long as you follow the cues with breathing, you're doing yoga. Even sitting where you are right now and breathing, that's yoga. It's the connection of mind, body, and spirit. So we'll get started. Let's start in a comfortable seated position on your mat or on the floor or on a chair. You can ground your sit bones down, cross-legged if that's comfortable to you. And we'll just settle into our bodies. Find a comfortable seat. Your hands can be in your lap. Your palms can be face down on your knees or face up. And if it's comfortable to you, just close your eyes here and come to the breath. So let's start not by controlling the breath, but noticing how you're breathing. Think about sending the breath up your spine. On the inhale, maybe sitting up a little bit taller. And as you exhale, just feel the grounding down into the space. Feel the weight in the floor or the ground beneath you. Just being aware of your body. Just keep breathing here. Think about sending breath into the belly space. So lots of times if we're like nervous or we're losing our breath, that breath comes, you know, in our lung space. But if we deepen the breath to fill the belly and to fill the back, we can start calming the mind. So just think about sending breath upwards, expansion, and exhale as an outwards breath and grounding tone. We'll spend a few breaths here. And if you'd like, if something stood out to you during, you know, what was shared earlier, feel free to call upon that word or that emotion. It could even be a color when you close your eyes. What do you see? Just send some breath to that mantra. And as we settle in, let's take some 3 breaths together. On the inhale, breathe in through the nose. And on the exhale, just let it out through the mouth. And do this twice more. On the inhale. And exhale, release. Third time, inhale. And exhale, release. Nice. And you can gently flutter open the eyes. I'm going to start moving. I'm wondering if it will be okay without the mic, so I'm just going to test it out. Hello. Okay. I tend to walk around, so on the inhale, keeping your hands on your knees, just expand the heart space. You can arch your back. See how that feels to you? Maybe looking up, creating space by the throat, just gently looking up, remembering if anything brings you pain, just to back away from it. On the exhale, you'll arch your back, chin tuck, just arch downwards into your chest. Nice. And we'll breathe like this for a few rounds. On the inhale, just gently look up, broaden the space between in your breastbone area, taking up space. Nice. Exhale, you round the back. Gently tuck the chin. Mindful that your neck is also part of the spine, so we're just warming up our spine here. Inhale, expand. Maybe arching the back, whatever feels good. Nice. Exhale, rounding the back. And if it feels good to you, you can even push your knees away, deepening the spine. Nice. Twice more. Inhale. Open. Beautiful. Exhale, rounding the back. Arching your spine just like a cat. And inhale, let's come back to center. Nice. From here, you'll raise your right hand. Nice. And the opposite hand comes down to the ground. And reach up and over. Nice. Lengthening the side body here. Fingertips reaching up and over. Both sit bones still grounding down into the mat. Nice. On the inhale, come back through center. Place the right hand down. Left hand comes up. Then scoop up and over. Think about sending breath in between each of the ribs here. Keeping that left sit bone grounded. Nice. Inhale, come up through center. Exhale, plant the left palm, right fingertips up and over. And spiraling the heart up towards the ceiling. Nice. And inhale, come up through center and plant the right palm, left fingertips come up and over. And breathe here, spiraling that heart space up towards the ceiling. And inhale, let's come back through center. Nice. From here, we'll come onto all 4. So we'll plant the palms and plant the knees. It's the tabletop position. Nice. And I'll do some cow poses and cat poses. And if your knees are hurting, you can fold the side of the mat over to provide more cushion on your knees. On the inhale, your belly drops closer to the floor, and then opening that chest space just like you did when you were seated. Nice. This is cow pose. On the exhale, we'll do cat pose. We'll round the back. Belly towards the spine, lengthen the back of your neck. We'll do cow pose. Inhale, opening the heart. And exhale, cat pose, arching the spine, belly to spine, releasing the neck. Do a few more of these on your own breath. You can incorporate any movement that feels good to you. And inhaling, opening the heart, exhaling, belly to spine. See if you can keep the weight even between your hands and your feet. Extra
can even make, if your back was a jump rope, you can make those circles going one way and then the other. And when you're ready, we'll sit back into child's pose, Balasana. What that means is you'll send your hips back, maybe over your ankles or over your heels. Your forehead can maybe make contact with the mat. Fingertips reach forward. And see if you can release any tension in your hips. And notice the spine, maybe holding any tension there. What about your neck? And on your next exhale, see if you can release maybe a few more degrees. Where can you send that? And keep reaching those hips back. And on the inhale, you can gently adjust your forehead, but walk your fingertips over to the right corner of the mat, maybe crossing your left palm over the right fingertips. And again, sending breath to the left side of the body. Let's keep sending both hips equally back. And on the inhale, we'll do the left side. So walk your fingertips over to the left corner of the mat. Maybe right palm plants over. And send breath to the right side of the body, hips reaching back. And breathing here. And tying movement with the breath. On the inhale, let's come back to neutral and come back to a tabletop position. Nice. And from here, you're going to lift your left fingertips up towards the ceiling and look towards the fingers as you lift. Exhale, we're going to thread the needle. Hands come under, right behind the wrist. Thread the needle through, maybe left ear on the mat. Here, if it's comfortable for you, you can even reach your right fingertips up towards the mat, to the top of the mat if you want, or you can wrap it behind your back and find the left hip crease. Two more breaths here. On the inhale, keep that right palm planted. Then bring the left fingertips up towards the ceiling on the inhale. And the exhale, we'll come back to tabletop position. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Keeping all parts that are hitting the mat constant. Inhale, float right fingertips up towards the ceiling, looking towards those fingertips. And exhale, thread the needle. Maybe right ear making contact with the mat. And breathing here. Left fingertips can stay where they are or reach the top of the mat. Or even wrap behind your low back, finding the right hip crease. And how can you soften in with the inhale and the exhale? And feeling the ground in your feet. On the inhale, place that left palm back where it was, and inhale, right fingertips reach up toward the ceiling, facing the left palm. Nice. And exhale, come back to neutral, tabletop position. Let's do one more cow pose and cat pose here. Inhale, cow pose. Belly comes towards the mat, heart opens. Exhale, cat pose, belly to spine. And inhale, back to tabletop position. From here, we're going to step our feet back to a plank. Nice. And if this becomes difficult or you need to take a break, that is okay too. You can always come in child's pose if you want to take a breath. Nice. From here, we'll shift our hips up and back and make a triangle shape with our bodies. Downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. So send your hips up and back. If you want to close the distance between your hands and your feet, you can adjust. The heels are reaching towards the ground. They don't have to touch. And see if you can bring your feet to hips width distance. Nice. All 10 toes and all 10 fingers are pointing forward towards the front of the room. And now reach those hips up and back. Kneecaps are engaged. Upper thighs are lifting. And just breathing here. Pedal out your feet. You can bring one heel down and then the other. It might feel good on your calves. And then when you're ready, we'll take slow baby steps up to the top of the mat. And when you reach there, you'll be in a forward fold position. Grab opposite elbows and just hang heavy. Maybe shifting your weight into your toes. Feel the four corners of your feet, the back heels, big toe, pinky toes. You can sway side to side, just empty out. This is actually an inversion. It has the same effects of being upside down in a headstand, keeping the back of your neck long. I like doing this when I'm feeling some sort of way or I just want to change the mood or flip the energy. Think about pouring a cup upside down. This is what we're doing with our bodies. Just relax here. How can you let gravity do its work? You can nod your head yes, shake it no, you can sway side to side. Let's just be here for a little bit. We'll invert. Nice. And exhale, release your hands. And forward fold. And in slow motion, we're going to make our way up to standing. One vertebrae at a time. The last thing that steps is the crown of your head, the very top. And when you're here, let's take one more breath together. Inhale through the nose. Then exhale. Let's do some shoulders shrug. So inhale, shrug shoulders up towards the ears. Nice. And exhale, round your shoulder blades down the back. You can make little shoulder circles. So feel free to go one direction at your own pace, and then the other. And when you're ready, we'll find some stillness. We'll inhale, bring your palms together. Maybe looking up towards your fingertips. Then exhale, forward fold, gently leading with the heart. Your hands can come to your knees or your shins or to the floor, wherever your body is. There's no need to change anything. Inhale, gently lift. See if you can bring your spine to be parallel to the floor. Nice. Exhale, forward fold. And hang heavy. And inhale, let's do a halfway back, or halfway lift with our back. And exhale, forward fold. Just hang heavy here. Last time, inhale, half flat back. Remembering that the back of your neck is part of your spine. Nice. Exhale here. We're going to plant our hands. And let's step back to a plank position. And at any time, you can take the knees, or you can come back to child's pose that we did at the beginning. Nice. In your plank, stack the shoulders above the wrists. They're on the balls of your feet. Nice. And let's come down to the knees here, but keep that engagement in the belly. So belly comes in. Nice. Now maybe walk one palm print forward. See if you can keep that belly tucked in so we're engaging the core. Now walk one one more palm print forward. This might feel a little more challenging. Walk one more palm print forward and then bring your forearms to the mat. Your forearms are forming an 11. Nice. And let's take a Sphinx pose here. So you'll come down to the mat, and then your elbows facing in, all 10 fingers pointing upwards. Nice. Then create that space, lifting the heart. If you want even more of a stretch, you can even plant your palms down and straighten your arms if that's comfortable for you. Otherwise, just stay here in Sphinx. We'll come back onto our forearms, and then we'll come to a forearm plank. So if it's comfortable for you, you can form fists and plant them into the mat. Otherwise, bring your palms down, the inner and outer edges of your wrist grounding down equally. Nice, really hug that belly in. Hips are level with the spine. Beautiful. Exhale, let's release into Sphinx pose. We're gonna gentle back bend here, pushing the mat away as you lift your back. Then inhale, we'll do forearm plank. Tuck the toes and lift your belly, lift your hips off the mat. And forearms are form the number 11. Nice. Maybe try hovering the right toes off the mat, and then maybe your left. And exhale, come back to Sphinx pose. Plant the hips, plant the belly, and inhale, look up. Nice. From here, let's come back up through plank, and we'll make our way to a downward facing dog. You're pushing the mat away, hips are reaching up and back. And inhale, you'll look forward, maybe looking towards the space right between your hands. And exhale, travel to the top of the mat. You could take baby steps, you could step or hop. Nice. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Then inhale, come all the way up to standing. Bring your palms to touch, maybe looking up underneath the palms. Then exhale, bring your hands to heart center, thumbs touching the chest. And if you want here, you could even gently tuck the chin, maybe closing the eyes. As you tuck the chin, there's actually something called a chakra, an energy space. I want you just to visualize the space of your throat. It's where our voice sits. Maybe thinking about the times when you want to say something or you have said something. How do we want this space to be empowering to us? Inhale, we'll gently bring our hands up, palms up together overhead. Then exhale, you can swan dive your arms forward fold. Uttanasana. Inhale, half flat back. Hands can come to the knees, backs parallel to the floor. Nice. Exhale, you'll plant the hands and step back to plank. Nice. And from here, just shift your hips up and back to downward facing dog. Heels are reaching down towards the mat. You can even shorten the distance between your hands and your feet. Our body's making the shape of a triangle. Nice. Inhale, gently lift the right heel up towards the ceiling. And see if you could level the hips. So we're not opening the hips quite yet. If you can bring your hip bones level to each other. Nice. Exhale, shift the over to the hands, plant that foot between the hands. This will be on the ball of our back foot on the inhale. Come up to a high lunge, Anjaneyasana. Nice. I'll have Shuhan demonstrate some adjustments in Anjaneyasana. If you want to come up here and you'll face sideways. Nice. So in Anjaneyasana, high lunge, your hips are level to each other. She'll actually increase the stance between her back foot and her front foot and see if she can deepen into this lunge. Maybe your front knee at 90 degrees, you don't have to, but it can look however. It is all 10 toes pointing forward, outer thighs rotating in towards the center line of your body. Nice. So high lunge here. Nice. Exhale, bring your hands down to the side, then rotate towards the library side, rotate towards the right side of the room. Nice, so fingertips are actually reaching front and back, keeping that high lunge shape of our body. Nice, inhale, come back to center. Then we're going to exhale in warrior two, Virabhadrasana 2. What that means is we'll spiral the back foot so that it's parallel to the back edge of the mat. Our left toes are maybe pointing towards the dragon. Nice. The right knee is pointing front. So some of you might need to open your stance a little bit more. And the alignment is the front arch. If you drew a straight line, it reaches the back. The right heel reaches the back arch, the back foot. Nice. Now deepen in a little bit. Fingertips pointing towards the front of the room, looking towards the front. Nice. Warrior two. Inhale, you'll flip the front palm and reverse the warrior by swimming your hands up and over. That back hand could stay on the back foot, the back leg. Nice. Exhale, come back to warrior two, and we'll window down to a low lunge. We'll step back to a plank. And from here, we'll take a downward facing dog, hips up and back. Nice. Remembering at any time you can take a rest. You can come to child's pose. You can take a sip of water if you have some by you. Just be gentle and kind to your body. There's no judgment here. Inhale, raise the left heel towards the ceiling. Keeping those hips level. Belly still engaged. Exhale, plant that left foot between the hands. We'll come up to a high lunge. Anjaneyasana. So you're on the ball of your back foot. Nice. And if this is okay, stay here. If you want to deepen and can lengthen your stance, you can even scooch your toes closer to the top of the mat. Amazing adjustments. Think about your outer thighs rotating in towards the center line of the body, maybe your front knee at 90 degrees. These are all just options. Take them or leave them. Nice. Exhale, bring your hands to the side. And then open towards the left side of the room. So your bottom body is still the same in that high lunge, but you're twisting towards the side of the room where the dragon is. Nice. See if you can keep your bottom body strong. And come back to the breath if you need it. Inhale. Lift the arms up. Exhale, open to warrior two. Again, the alignment here is left toes point towards the front of the room. The back foot is parallel to the short end of the mat. Fingertips reaching to the front and the back. Gaze over those left fingertips. Nice. Maybe widening your stance. And challenging yourself if you want to deepen maybe 90 degrees in that front leg. steps, hop, however you get there. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale, let's come all the way up to standing. You can circle the arms, palms to touch. And exhale, hands to heart center. Again. Sorry about that. Tucking the chin. Be acknowledging the self. Nice. You might feel your body warming up. So we'll keep flowing here. Inhale, circle the arms, palms together. Maybe looking up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. You can swan dive your arms, leading with the heart. Inhale, half flat back, hands can come to the shins. Exhale, plant the palms and step back to plank. And from here, let's actually bring our knees down. Walk one palm print forward, holding it there, belly in. Now walk another palm print forward, belly in. And it might get harder as the further you go, then come. A final palm print forward, then bring your forearms to the mat. Nice. Stay here if that's comfortable for you. Otherwise, you'll step your feet back, coming into a forearm plank. Belly in, coming back to the breath. Exhale, release, and plant your hips down and come to skin's pose. Then from here, let's come back up through plank, so plant your palms. See if you could lift up and get yourself to that plank position. Hips up and back.